Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. Hey, welcome back to the show. Today, I'm sharing with you an episode that I did on another podcast because I love sharing more of my story and unique perspectives based on questions that hosts ask me. I hope you enjoy this episode and can dive deeper into learning from this podcast and from others. Check the link in the show notes for more information on this host, their episode, and where you can find the full content.
Welcome to the Action Academy podcast.
Stand back while I celebrate freedom.
The show where we help you achieve financial independence with the mindsets, methods, and actionable steps from guests who've already earned their freedom.
The flags of freedom fly.
Choose to do what you want.
What you want.
With who you want.
With who you want.
When you want.
When you want.
With another episode today. Now, here's your host, Brian Luebben.
Shannon, what's up?
Hey, Brian.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I am doing better than I deserve, as Mr. Ramsey would say. So
Love it.
I just got back from Colombia. There was a Wednesday, talked to a friend Friday. He's like, hey, you want to come visit me in Colombia? I've got tickets to this Rufus the Sol concert. I was like, yes. Friday, I was in Colombia, ended up staying there for a little bit over a week, flew back. Now it's Wednesday. I just got done golfing. Took way longer of a nap than I should have. And now you and I are speaking here. And afterwards, I've got 3 more interviews. And every time we start to complain about our lives, like, we just should shut up. Our lives are
I have to say that. Yeah. And there's actually a quote that I heard at a conference from Jasmine Star, so I have to give her credit, which was, she said, remember that the one thing that overwhelms you right now is the thing you once prayed for.
This is really good because as I was golfing, I started stressing out and freaking out because I don't know about you, but my brain went into corporate mode because I was golfing. And then I had a 12 o'clock call with my CPA where we're talking about last year's taxes, tax strategy for this year. Then I had a 1 o'clock, then I had a 2 o'clock here, then I had a 3 o'clock, then I had a 4 o'clock. And I was like, dude, I'm not even going to have time to go to lunch. I should have golfed today. Like, I shouldn't have been here. And I'm golfing with my buddies that are all way more seasoned entrepreneurs than me. And he goes, it's your calendar. It's your business. It's like, change it.
Yeah.
And I still have to struggle with that. I still have those issues. And so I was able to move that noon call to Friday and have a fantastic lunch, have a great time, and come into here nice, relaxed, and rested. Do you ever run into that still?
I do sometimes because as like corporate people, we are victims of our calendar, and our calendar is owned by other people, not by us. And we very seldom feel like we have the power to just change it on a whim, or we feel like we're severely inconveniencing someone. And here's what's funny. You could have made someone's day who also didn't get to eat lunch that day, and they're like, thank God he moved it to Friday. And we feel so much guilt about moving stuff. But it's like, nobody was like, with all due respect, you were probably not the highlight of someone's day. It's okay.
Whoa.
A meeting is probably not going to be the height of their day either. So it's going to be, I think we just have to give ourselves some grace and flexibility and say, yeah, I can just take this and move it over here and no one's going to be any worse for it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one of the cool things about the lives that you and I both live right now. So I would use that as a perfect segue to allow you to introduce yourself to the audience. Tell the people what you do right now today, what your life looks like today, and then let's dissect the story of Shannon before versus Shannon right now.
Oh man, so much to share there, but I'm a CPA and fractional CFO. I currently manage my own practice. I quit my corporate job just about a year and a half ago and went into this full-time, full speed. And I used to work at a Big Four firm. I made it pretty high up the ladder and was very successful in corporate. Like, I was your typical, like, well-behaved, like, partner track person and very successful with it, but just needed and craved so much more than that and that flexibility. Just like you said, the first thing I did when I quit my job was I cleared my calendar, pulled up an Excel spreadsheet because I will never not need a spreadsheet. But I pulled up the spreadsheet and I was like, what do I want my day to look like? Like, when do I actually perform the best? When do I actually want to meet with people? And that was like the most liberating experience when I started.
Yes. Oh my God. And it's a process. And that's why I like documenting whenever small things like this happen, because like small things are big things when you can put them out into a lesson. So it's just like, what can you take away from your day to where each and every day we can get like just 1% better. So that was the 1% win that I had today was I can move that call. I don't have to do this. It's a giant thing. My business coach, Chris, is one of the ones that introduced us. And it's a lot of, is this a have to do, a need to do, or is this a want to do? Let's take the have to do's and let's have some grace and humility here. And remember, like, this is a get to do, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you and I were just talking about. So talk about your journey before. I'm assuming you didn't just get like a giant lump sum of money from your parents. You didn't win the lottery. So how the heck did you get out of your corporate job? Because Big Four accounting, you're making some cheddar.
Yeah. And I was supposed to be the safe one because my husband's also an entrepreneur and he makes good money, but he was like, you're supposed to be the safe mortgage payment. What are we doing? Two business owners. Oh, this is risky. But in all fairness, it was a process of 4 years. So it was living the 4-hour work week mentality before I even read the book. I didn't even know that this was a thing, but I was like, that's literally what I did. I basically, they call it like quiet quitting now, but it wasn't really quiet quitting. It was basically a phase out of priorities. And I started having perspective and I said, you know what? I'm not going to stay until 6 tonight. I'm not going to come in early to get this thing done. I'm going to do what I need to do. But every extra hour I have, I'm going to be spending building the thing on the side that eventually, hopefully turns into something to replace this. But it was a dream. It was a thought, but I was like, yeah, I mean, all I can do is spend each day prioritizing what I enjoy doing over what I have to do. And that was just a game changer for me in terms of shifting my focus into that, where I felt fulfilled by the side project and I could just show up to work, do the thing and do what I needed to do. But I also realized that like some overachievers like me, we could get away with 40 to 60% effort and still do the job really well. Like I did not half-ass it or slack. It was just like, I'm just not going to go above and beyond in here and I'm going to save my energy for this. And that was how I made it happen. But it was a process of 4 years to really build it up to a point where I could build the cash flow to quit the job.
It's funny because this is a point that I've discovered in my content that resonates with people. And some people are probably listening to this podcast from my content where I'm like, hey guys, working really hard at your corporate job is probably not to your benefit. Because as overachievers and as high performers in corporate America, you and I both know like the specific archetype and the specific problem is you win and win. And then they're like, oh my God, this person's a winner. Let me put more on their shoulders.
Exactly.
More and more. You host the conference calls. You do this. You host the team trainings. You host the happy hours. And you're not getting paid additional.
No, there's no return on energy. Return on energy. So there's actually like when you talk about return on assets, return on equity, return on investment, what is my return on energy? If I expend this energy, what am I getting back for it? And you realize that at a certain point, I'm like, it's actually diminishing returns. It's actually, I'm losing energy by spending it and I'm not getting anything out of it, not promotions, not benefits, not pay. And you realize I'm just spending all of my energy on this and I'm sacrificing the energy I could be spending on loved ones, family, myself, my passions, my hobbies. And you hit this breaking point where you go, oh, every marginal hour I'm spending working doesn't actually get me closer to any of my goals. So what could I be spending that time doing that makes me feel more fulfilled? And I think that's really when it hits home.
What was your breaking point? What was the moment where you said, hey, let me throw this path out that I've been working decades on or years on to get here?
The breaking point actually happened before the decision. And that was when my dad passed away. So my dad passed away and my husband's dad then passed away shortly thereafter. This is after I built the business, but I will say this, like we're not entitled to retirement. And our dads passed away in their 50s, low 60s, answering work emails the day before they died. There was no retirement. There was no promised land. I remember my dad saying, one day I'll get to retire and I'll get to do this and this. He never got it. And like he busted his ass and got nothing. And except a cancer diagnosis and a miserable fight. And I was like, we are entitled to nothing. Like you deferring your happiness, your enjoyment only does that. It defers it. And you're gambling. And you're gambling that I'm going to be alive to enjoy this, or that I'm going to be healthy enough to enjoy this. And it really shook us up, where I was like, oh my God, what are we doing? What is this for? Like, why am I I feel like I was busting my butt for so long. And I'm like, for what? And it really called into question. It put this mirror back and said, what is it for? For the sake of achieving, for the sake of the pride, for the sake of the trophy? Or is there actually something at the end of this road? And I realized that I didn't want to make partner. I didn't really want to escalate in the corporate world. I tried other jobs trying to mend that and put a Band-Aid on it and say, maybe it's the people I work with. Maybe it's the company I work for. Maybe it's the role that I have. So I tried different types of jobs and different types of companies, thinking that variable would shift it. But then what I realized was, no, it's the nature of the work in working for someone else and being subject to their schedule, their timing. My calendar was owned by somebody else. And my husband is I'll say disabled. He has chronic back issues, and he needed me to be around. Like, I didn't want to get any more phone calls saying I need to go to the hospital and I'm an hour away at work. I was like, no, I want to be around. I want to be present. I want to be here. I want to be able to do what I need to do and to take a morning off to take care of him if I need to, without ever having to ask permission. So exactly what you were saying. I want to be able to move things around with no guilt. So it was a collection of all those things where I realized he's not getting any healthier. Nobody's getting any healthier over time, really. Some are, but we're all moving towards this thing. And I'm going, why are we wasting so much time just killing ourselves for what? Like, using up all this energy. So I had this kind of epiphany, if you will, after my dad died. It took a long time to process, but I realized that I'm not cut out for this anymore. And I started pursuing building the side project, which eventually became what it is today, which is my own company.
Holy shit. Thank you for sharing. That is super powerful. My buddy Aaron, he had his dad with a similar situation where his dad was going in, saving dollar after dollar. His dad did well, and his dad worked his tail off. And then at 64 years old, same thing.
Yep.
And I think I don't know the science behind it. I don't know if there is science behind it, but like, I've got this analogy of there's like a car driving on the road, and we're all mashing the gas of this vehicle. And all we do is just think about, what vehicle do I want to drive? And then that's just like entrepreneurship, Airbnb. Do I want to be a real estate investor, stock market, all this different stuff? You're just thinking about the vehicle, and we're just riding down the street, and it's an infinite highway with nothing on the left, nothing on the right, no gas stations. And you're just redlining for years and decades. And all of a sudden the car breaks down because you never knew where the hell you were heading. Like, you had no clue. And I feel like that's where our bodies start talking to us. I feel like that's where the depression, the anxiety, the sickness, like, that's where it starts coming, because your body, you're just breaking down because you never realized where you were heading towards. And so you never took your foot off the gas. And so it's just like, how many stories have you heard that are just like yours? That I've heard dozens like that.
Absolutely.
It's insane. And I know more people, like, it's almost like a 50-50 coin toss now for hearing cancer stories.
Yeah, especially, I think there's also it's a function of the lifestyle that our generations and those above us have lived, and what direction we're heading in as a society. But it's also, and I know we'll get into this too, but because I live in multiple different countries and I've traveled to different places as you have, you gain perspective on America.
Yeah.
And I live in Costa Rica half the year, and I'm telling you that living there, I look back at America and I'm like, they're effing crazy.
Yes. Everyone, yes. Like, you don't get it till you get it. You don't get it until you're walking through Barcelona and people taking a nap in the park in their suit, like at 2:00 in the afternoon. You
don't a golf game.
Yeah. You don't get it until you start seeing this across the world. Like, nobody, like, the Asian countries are like this. Like, they're probably even more hardcore than us, but not like the European countries. But it's just, let's zoom out a bit and let's really take into account, like, where are all these centurions living? Like, where are these people that are 100-year-old plus?
The blue zones and all of that too. Like, so Italy, where are they at?
Japan. Yeah. So Japan, where they finish working, they always had like very fulfilling and meaningful work. And then they're very tight-knit, family oriented. The family takes care of the elderly. That's a point of pride for them. Very strong knit communities. And then they just had a work-life balance. And then you have the Italians, where they're still working in their restaurant that their family's owned since the 1800s, and they love it.
And they love it.
Yeah. So I want to use that as a point. And one more point, and then I want to get into the Costa Rica story, and then let's dissect your business. I need to introduce you to Megan. Megan just joined Action Academy, and now you're in Action Academy as an honorary member, which I like bringing ballers in for free. And I need to introduce you to, because she's a CPA. She's like Big Four, like $250,000 a year salary. So she's in the process of leaving. And she's on maternity leave right now. And then when her and I are talking, I'm about to pay somebody else to raise my effing child. And that's not okay with me. I'm not paying somebody else to raise my child. I want to be there for my child. Like, I'm not worried about the finances. And there's a book called Family Board Meeting that says you have 18 summers with your kids. That's it. And then they're going to be off to college, and maybe they'll come back to visit every once in a while, but you have 18 summers. And so a lot of people in Action Academy are like new parents or young kids. And they're like, we get it. Like, we need to do this now, not later. So,
yes.
God, thank you for sharing your story again. I'll get off my soapbox here. So walk us through the transition philosophically here. So you left your job, and then where did Costa Rica come into play? How did this materialize? How did you make your life around your business as opposed to your business around your life, as opposed to your life around your business? And then we'll get into the financials of how you actually pulled it off.
Yeah. And what's so funny is it's not by a miracle, not by anything crazy. It's never sexy, right? It's like we saved up money. Wow, that's amazing. No. So here's how it actually played out. So I was working my corporate job, but I was mentally checking out, and I was building my business on the side from here in Connecticut. Right. And then, so in line with the story I just told, we were down visiting Jason's parents in Costa Rica. They were snowbirding down there. They decided to spend 2 or 3 months in renting a condo on the beach there. And Jason goes, hey, my parents are staying in Costa Rica. They invited us down for 2 weeks. You want to go? I'm like, absolutely. So I used up like all my PTO at the time. And I go down to Costa Rica, and I nearly immediately fall in love with the country. Like, the people are so friendly. Everyone is so genuinely like looking to help you. They're just good people. It brought me back to childhood of the wonder of thinking everyone is nice, right? Especially during COVID, right? This was actually in 2019, early 2019 before COVID. Yeah, that happened in 2020. Okay. Yeah. So that was before COVID. And then what we did was we came back from the trip nearly immediately after Jason's dad was diagnosed with cancer. So that was after that happened. And May of 2020, so a year later, he's still struggling, battling the disease. And Jason looks at me in May 2020, April 2020-ish. And he goes, Shan, I want to buy my dad a house in Costa Rica. He loves the country. He loves being there. And I want him to spend his last days there. I was like, absolutely. Not that he asked my permission. He basically told me this is what we're doing. And I'm not opposed to it. So I said, absolutely, let's do it. We buy this house that was being built in May. It was supposed to be ready in September. His dad passes in July. So he never got to see it. And what ended up happening was we kept the house. It was supposed to be for him, but we kept the house. We were like, what are we going to do? Should we rent it? Should we sell it? What should we do? Of course, like, we wanted to go stay there, but we were thinking like, oh, a couple weeks a year, we'll use it, but we need to find a way to make money off of it or use it. We go down there to move in November, and I ended up staying the majority of 8 months. Jason came back and forth for his business and stuff. And I went down there, I brought my work laptop, and I basically, other than coming back for Christmas and for a week here and there, I stayed down there basically till August of the next year. And I just looked at Jason and I was like, I don't want to go back. I just don't really want. I never would have seen that coming. But it's so common down there. You'll run into people in our town who will be like, yeah, I came down here for a 2-week vacation 18 years ago and never went back. Yeah. It like traps you in. But the transition mentally for me was, oh my God, this is such a breath of fresh air. It was like a reset switch of, what the hell are you doing, Shannon? Not only was his dad's death a reminder, but then to go there and gain that perspective of the lifestyle and your heart rate just drops because you're just enjoying seeing sun every day. Your circadian rhythm is on point. Like, it's 6 a.m. sunrise, 6 p.m. sunset every day. And you can go out and enjoy movement and the weather and the people and the culture. It was a no-brainer for me that I said, this is where I want to be spending most of my time.
Yeah, it was really cool when I went down to Colombia, because down there, I was just like, it was the first place that I truly experienced geographic arbitrage. So for people that are listening, there's this whole term where it's like you can make money in US dollars and go somewhere else where that goes further.
Exactly.
So it's essentially, okay, I can't get a raise at my corporate job, but if I move to Costa Rica or if I move to Colombia and I'm working the same hours, like that dollar is now worth 5 times more.
Absolutely.
So you just 5x your income.
Yeah.
Europe, I did not run into that anywhere. Like, honestly, I just didn't. I was staying in the major cities. Each one of them was as expensive as an American city, or they would up their, like the euro or whatever, the kuna in Croatia, or, in Budapest. And then even in Brazil has reais, and they upped it to where the reais was, if it was $100 reais for a cheeseburger, it'd be $20 US. But it's so interesting when you do that and you make the move and you say, why was I where I was before? Just because it was normal and because I was used to it.
Yeah, it's reminding you that everything you're doing is a choice. Even if you're staying where you are, it's a choice. So why am I making the choice to stay here? Or why am I making the choice to continue? Now, obviously, there's the logistics of Jason's businesses in Connecticut. His family's in Connecticut. You live there. Yes, we have roots here. But it was also the choice of, we have this house. We should spend as much time as we can here and enjoy it and be part of this community, which we absolutely love. And yeah, it just comes down to, like you said, the geographic arbitrage too, of it's not insanely cheaper to live in Costa Rica where we live, but for the price of our property taxes in Connecticut, you can live in the country. Like, you can pay rent. So it's basically, wait a minute, what are we spending all this money on? And side note, we don't have kids. That's probably a relevant fact. We don't have kids because we're paying property taxes here for the school system. And we're like, we're not even absorbing any of that. Like, we're just we're paying into the system. And it's not like we have a kid who's in the system. We feel like we're paying in, but we're not, like, for the privilege of living here in a town with one traffic light, no police department, and no fire department. And we're paying 10 grand a year. And I'm going, why? Like, we're working so hard. I'm going to go back to this. You're working so hard to make the money to pay for the taxes and to pay for the living. And I'm like, you're in a cycle of, so then you have to work hard to pay for all those things. So you have those things and then you have to work hard to keep them. And it's just this cycle over and over again. It's like your friend Megan, who, like, oh wait, I'm going to have to pay someone to raise my kid because I have to make enough money to pay for that. And it's just, why don't you just stop all of it and go back to, like you said, it's the geographic arbitrage, but also the, like, let's just lower the cost of living. What if I didn't have to pay this person? I wouldn't have to make as much money. And then you can just strip away all the unnecessary things that you're doing because you feel like you have to.
What are some more logistical, like, rules of thumb that you can give somebody that's working the job right now, or they've got their own baby business, which we'll get into at the 30-minute mark here, and we'll go all into business in the back half here. What are some more, like, logistical points that you can get for somebody that's, shit, I want to move to Costa Rica. I want to have a house or somewhere else. It doesn't necessarily need to be Costa Rica. Like, I'm sick of living here. I'm sick of living in Detroit. I'm sick of living in Connecticut. I want to move over here to Phoenix. I want to move to Austin. I want to move to Florida. I want to move to California. Maybe not California. What are some more pieces of advice that you can give for, like, lifestyle structure and business structure? What are things that you had to take into account to make that happen? Logistically?
I would say, yeah, I mean, the first thing is you got to know where you want to go. And that's very personal. What type of environment do you want to be in? What type of communities you want to be in? What type of weather do you like? It's all those things. And then once you figure out a location you want to go to, or at least a region, I just want to open people's minds up to the international side, because I feel like people think it is, and you know this too from your travels, they just somehow think that crossing the border is, like, infinitely harder than moving to another state. And it's not. No. It's a plane ticket and you're flying a little bit longer, but you land and it's fairly easy. It was very simple. If people are overwhelmed, oh my God, you moved to Costa Rica, how did you do that? I'm like, a one-way ticket and my bank account, like, having enough money to get by. Like, I woke up today and hopped on a plane. Like, it's that easy. If you have a passport, book a flight, go live there for 2 weeks, go enjoy it, go get an Airbnb, go explore, and just live on the road a little bit if you can afford to, right? If you have a virtual business or a virtual job, I say take advantage and go hook up your internet connection in any other place in the world for a few weeks and just absorb it and see what you like, if you're not sure where you want to go yet. But it's very doable. I just think people have this weird barrier in their mind that it's going to be so much harder to go international. It really isn't. We're still U.S. citizens. We haven't renounced citizenship. We haven't expatriated. We're applying for residency in Costa Rica, which you can still have as a U.S. citizen. So there's no one or nothing, like all or nothing thing. You can be a dual resident and you can enjoy what the country has to offer without a massive commitment or a massive investment either.
And a massive point that I want to make that is a bit different between you and I than a lot of in the financial independence retire early community, or like the 4-hour work week community, is we're still working.
Right.
Like, we're building our businesses and operating our businesses and growing our businesses. Guess what, guys? What time zone is Costa Rica? Central?
They're Central Standard. So right now they're Mountain.
Yeah.
They're Arizona +1.
Yeah. So Central Standard. So when I was in Colombia, it was the same time zone as Austin. I woke up in Colombia and I went to a beautiful coffee shop, or I looked over my balcony and I could see all of Medellin in the background, and I would just work on my business. And that gives you such a freedom to do that, because I think people are so caught up in this binary thinking pattern that says, I either can't do this and I have to live in a crappy place and I have to eat rice and beans working this crappy job, or I have to be a multi-millionaire making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month of passive income to be able to go do this. There's a lot of gray in between. And guys, what Shannon just did is possible. You can do this like next month. It's just a process of moving your business or moving your job to where you can do it online or remotely, which is getting easier and easier as time progresses.
Yeah. And here's another example too, Brian, of like so I work with a virtual trainer, right? A personal trainer who I exercise with, right? And I have weights and stuff down in Costa Rica. I have equipment here, and I will meet with her. And she's asked me so many times, I'm so proud of you, Shan, for continuing your training, even though you're on vacation. And I laughed and I was like,
yeah,
girl, I haven't had a vacation in 4 years.
It's my life.
But here's the thing. If you just heard me say, I haven't had a vacation in 4 years, and you're like, oh, you poor thing. No, I haven't needed a vacation, because I don't have a life I need to escape from.
Oh my
God. I don't have a life I need to escape from.
Bars.
I do not have a life I need to escape from. There is no such thing as a vacation in my life anymore. It is not a vacation. It's life in another location.
It's a Tuesday.
It's a
Wednesday.
Exactly. And like you said, I wake up, I go for a walk along the beach. I go to my favorite coffee shop. I say hi to everybody in town. I enjoy a little bit of sunlight, and I go sit down around 9 a.m. and I work my butt off until about 2. And then I go for another walk, go grab some lunch, whatever it is. And that's the thing, is like, you design your day the way you need to get shit done. But I'm getting shit done. I'm running a whole business by myself. I'm running a nearly $500,000 practice with a small team. It's hard some days. I work very hard, but I do it with a backdrop of a palm tree. And that's just what people don't understand, is you can have both, and you can balance it out, and you can take a break and go in the pool and come back and hop on a podcast. Like, it's totally okay.
Yeah. And this is progression. It was funny. I was just golfing with my buddy Mike Ayala. He was on your show.
Yeah, I know Mike.
Yeah. So we're golfing and we talk about this kind of funny progression that we see. So it's sexy for people to start getting into real estate when they're in their corporate job, financial freedom. They're like, I'm going to get financial freedom through real estate investing and become an investor. They put their investor hat on and they say, I'm an investor now. Yep. And then it's a funny progression. And I was talking to him about this. I was like, dude, business is so much more fun than just real estate. Instead of just thinking about investing and, I'm going to buy this property for 60% of the market value, fix it up, get my money back, do it again. Instead of just looking for deals, this business is like creating value. And there's so many different levers that you can pull when it comes to business. And there's so many different ways that you can win. And then we were talking about it. Is once you graduate, quote unquote, to that kind of cash flow, then it's game over. So whereas somebody that's working as a CPA, maybe making $200,000 a year, Big Four, it's going to be very difficult for you to passive income your way out, right? Very
Absolutely.
difficult. And so I couldn't do that. So I had some passive income, and then I also had to build active income, which I call passionate income, which was doing my own business on the side. And then that's what really got me out. So it's like, that's why we teach both sides of it. So now I want to invite you to let's go straight into the business.
Yeah.
Walk us through the inception of what you did, what you started, and then let's walk through the transition from like an inception to now I'm working on this 30%, 50%, 80%. I'm working on this in Costa Rica.
Yeah. So when I first started it, I started my business based on what people are asking for, which like, it's an interesting thought that like right now, what I would preach business owners to do, and this is what's unique about when you get business advice online, is you're hearing advice from me now on what I would do 10 seconds ago. But if I look back at 4 years ago, I wouldn't change a thing for anything, but I learned a lot, which was when I started, I did tax returns because that made me fast money. at scale. Everyone needs it. And it was an easy thing to do to build up the capital. So I did not build what you would call like, it was passionate income, but it was more leaning toward that, the Venn diagram, who has that, the Ikigai concept, but it's the much more of the what people are asking for side of it.
Yeah, so it's like the
What the need is.
Yeah, so for people listening, I talk about Ikigai a lot. So it's like circle of what you're good at, what you love, what the market wants, and what you can
What
make
the
money
market
doing.
wants.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was much more like in the what the market wants circle and figuring out what I was good at other than what I was doing in my day job, right? So I'm a CPA, but like I hadn't really done small business taxes, accounting, and worked with entrepreneurs before. I was working with Fortune 50 companies. So I was still learning like that side of like that muscle group of my skill set. And then I go, okay, I'm doing a lot of taxes. I'm not charging enough because I need help and I'm hitting capacity. It's all I can really do in my, I call it the 7 to 10, 7 to 10, right? Is all I can do is this much work and I'm not making enough money to invest what I want to. So then prices went up, hired people, prices went up, hired people, changed the services, changed what I offered so it would be higher value. And basically segment by segment, like $100 increment by $100 increment, I went from charging $250 a month to do basic bookkeeping and $300 for a tax return to now my service is $5,000 a month. And that was going from basic bookkeeping to fractional CFO. What I did was I showed up with the skill set that I had with the amount of time I was willing to invest. And I was limiting myself by how much time I had to invest because I was thinking to myself, who the hell am I to charge multiple thousand a month when I'm working a full-time job and I'm only doing this 4 hours a day or 3 hours a day or 2 hours a day? Like I only have that much to dedicate to this. And I need these people to, I should basically, what's the word? I have to earn their money by working more. And I had this in my head, if I only have 4 hours to spare, I can only charge a certain amount of money because I can only work so much. So I limited myself by output measurement and not value of what I was actually doing or my expertise. I was confining myself to the amount of time I could spend working. And so that I lacked confidence. I ended up working with a mentor over the past year and a half. I just stopped working with him, I think last August. And he basically taught me like confidence comes from getting results for people and
Action.
getting results for people. Yeah, action and getting results for other people and showing that you can get them results. And he's Shannon, what would it take? Like, how much more would you have to do to charge $3,000 a month than what you're already doing? And I was charging at the time like $1,200. And he's, what more would you do to charge $3,000 a month? I'm like, there's literally nothing more I can do. And he's exactly. But there's somebody out there that values what you're doing at that price point. There's somebody out there who sees that as a worthwhile investment and that will take it.
Better customer too.
Better customer, much better customer. Elevated my perception of what my value was and what I could bring to the table and who I could serve. And in doing that, not only did I elevate my confidence, my skills, and my price point, obviously my revenue level, but I elevated the types of people I worked with. And therefore my level of, I guess, like savvy, my level of interaction, my circles, my networks, like the people I work with, I'm like, you may even be like with me or a step ahead of me or 2 steps ahead of me that I'm working with you. I know the money side of things, but I'm working with folks who are making multiple millions of dollars, 7 figures, 7, 8 figures. And what we're doing is I'm learning so much about what they're building through the numbers that maybe they're not as familiar with and teaming up with them. And it's been so cool to see that growth because I start seeing my potential now that I'm exposed to it. And that's a really cool thing, is being surrounded by people who are the 7, 8 figure earners and growing my business to follow with what's working for them.
When you were talking about that, like this story got brought to mind about Pablo Picasso sitting in the cat and somebody walks up to him and hands him a napkin and says, can you create a piece of art for me? And then Pablo draws like a stick figure on the napkin and gives it to the guy and says, that'll be $100,000. I guess that just took you 2 seconds to do it. He goes, you're not paying me for 2 seconds. You're paying me for 50 years.
Yes.
It's like a Pablo Picasso.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing as business owners. And it's funny because I'm posted on Facebook the other month and I said, it was adorable that I was reading business books before I had a business. And it's cute to do the podcast and to do the books and everything before you have the book and before you're doing the thing, because you read all this time because, okay, you need to raise your price. The higher price will yield a better customer, right?
Yeah.
So so if you have a low ticket offer, a low ticket service, if you're charging like $100, $150, and you're like trying to be the lowest cost provider in your business, you're going to have the worst customers because it's going to be the type of customer, the avatar that's going to hackle and heckle you to get you all the way down to zero. Because somebody else
you're going to
is
resent
come,
them.
Yeah, if you're charging 110, somebody else is going to charge 105, and they don't care about your relationship if you've been together for 5 years. They want that extra $5 of savings. Whereas on the other end of the spectrum, instead of racing to zero, there's an infinite ceiling to where you can raise your prices to. And I'm running into that in my business as well, because now we're $5,000 a year, and I'm always wanting to increase the price of Action Academy. And I do it in such a manner that both the quality of person that comes in is better, but also each person that comes in at that tier is like a cemented OG. Because if you got into Action Academy at $2,000 a year, then that's all you're ever paying is $2,000 a year. If you got into $5,000 a year, you're only ever paying $5,000 a year. So it's always a value imbalance, because then my $10,000 product at Action Academy, somebody's getting for $5,000 because they took a bet on it early.
Exactly.
Right?
They invested early. They believed in it. And it's the concept of the market, right? Like the buy low. I want to get in on this now and reward people for believing in you early and also, and seeing your potential. But I want to sort of caveat that with people who are coming out the gate and drop their corporate job, or they start their own business. I'm like, maybe you can't charge $5,000 a month right out the gate. Like it does take results. It does take confidence. It does take a lot to get there where you can command that price, because you know how to articulate the value and you know how to showcase the results for people and be able to work with that customer. I think it's a while to evolve to that point. I definitely don't advocate people go take this and say, my price is now $5,000. It's like, no, you have to justify it with the results that you're generating and the value they provide and their perceived value.
But steal our framework, ladies and gentlemen that are listening. And there are lots of guys that are listening and girls that are listening to this right now that have a 7-figure business, and that you can apply this in your 7-figure business. There's no reason that your prices need to stay your prices. So you can use our framework and still like start somewhere, but just say to everyone should know, my business is increasing. My value is increasing. My output is increasing. My price is increasing. Get on the horse, or it's going to be a completely different ride later on. And then that calls for people that haven't listened to Robert Cialdini, that was just on last Tuesday. He talks about the psychological laws of persuasion, and that scarcity is one of them. So that creates scarcity and urgency. So people will act on your business. And another tactic that you implemented was the MVP, the minimum viable product.
Yes.
So you said, here's the thing. I don't know if you guys really want this or what it's going to turn into. Can you tell me what you want my business to be, and I will cater it to your problems and your needs? Can you talk to us about that process?
Yeah, admittedly, it was less of a process and more of a I said yes to everything. Yeah. But so here's the thing. Uniquely in my context, I'm a CPA, and everybody has a definition of what that person does. When I say I'm a CPA, some of you think I do taxes. Some of you think I do XYZ. I can value a business. I can do all these things. Y'all, we went to school for 4 years. There's no way we could have learned all this stuff. It's like saying doctor. I'm not a dermatologist, a podiatrist, a pediatrician, and an internal medicine doctor. Like, you pick a specialty. So when people came up to me, they were like, hey, you run your own business and I happen to work with fitness professionals at the time because I worked in fitness for a while. So that was the network I was rolling in. So I was like, I'm going to niche to this and I'm going to focus on it. And then a bunch of people hired me and basically said, I need my taxes done. I'm like, I can do that. I could. So I was like, I can do that. I need my books done. I can do that. Yeah. You'll pay me to do that? That's awesome. I was so excited people would pay me to do what I knew how to do.
Sure.
And then I had to go back and reverse the math and go, wait a minute. If I do this for this many people, I'm capping myself at this much revenue.
Boom.
And I was just excited to earn the quote unquote extra money. But once my focus shifted into how do I actually use this to exit my corporate job, that's when I was like super intentional about the product, the pricing, the packaging, how I positioned everything. And I was like, this is what needs to happen in order for that to happen. So I'm going to commit to doing this because I was so motivated to have that take effect.
So how did you change your product and your package and positioning? Because how it worked for Action Academy, and this is so effing cool for us to both talk about because we just did the thing, right?
Yeah.
And there are so many people that are listening that there's so many people that did something and built something, but you guys didn't see behind like the hood, under the hood while they were building it. And so now you guys all directly get to see what me and Shannon are doing. So for me, it started as one-on-one coaching calls that I was doing for free. And then that went into paid coaching calls where I was charging $500 an hour, hated that. Then it transitioned into an online course where I basically went to everyone that I coached for free. And I said, hey, here's a course. I made like $100,000 in 2 days. And then it went to Mastermind because I had a free Facebook group attached to the course. And then I was like, whoa, this is the wrong business model. Like, this is a Facebook, this is a group with an attached course, not a course with an attached Facebook group. So that was my transition through my MVP to the different stages and different versions. What was your process?
Oh man. So it started with doing tax returns, basic bookkeeping, and having an accounting service eventually that turned into like a monthly subscription model of I'll do everything for you for this much per month. I forget what my original pricing was. It was something ridiculously low, I'm sure. It eventually got to like $1,200 a month. And then I was like, ooh, that's a lot of money. I'm excited to charge that. And I'm laughing now going, I wouldn't be alive if I was charging that right now. And then it turned into, okay, I want to do more. I want to do higher value. Like what I realized I was doing was transactional work. So it was like, you give me tax return, I give you money. That is it. Right. And I called it, the breaking point for me was when I have made it available to have tax planning calls with people. I was teaching this on social media too. I was teaching, please meet with your accountant mid-year and do planning and talk about your tax strategies. And I made myself available for free for all my clients and said, book a tax planning call. 1 out of 80 clients booked it. And I was like, why? And then I dug into it. I asked a few people and they're like, we don't want to talk about taxes. We just want the return done. And it was so funny because I was like, that's so counterintuitive to me that like, why wouldn't you want to save money in taxes? Isn't that part of the deal? So what I realized was that people had bought the tax return being done. They hadn't bought Shannon working with them all year. In their minds, they just bought that deliverable. So I was like, I don't want to sell that deliverable because
so you were a commodity.
I was a commodity. And I said, I don't want to be a commodity. I don't want to be an April 14th one night stand. I don't. I want a relationship.
CPA humor.
I know, but I was like CPA Bridget Jones. I was like, no, I don't want this. I want the real thing.
Yeah.
I want to work with my clients year round. I want them to value me. I want them to invite me to things. I want them to tell me about stuff, call me and actually care. And I said, if I want to work with people who actually care, I got to find people who make more money. And I have to find people with more at stake.
Solve rich people problems.
Exactly. But more at stake and that would actually be invested literally and figuratively in the solutions. So I said, I need to make sure I find these people. I need to have it be a relationship-based service. I need to have it be a holistic approach to their business. So now I dubbed that fractional CFO, which is now a really cool term. But what we do is we look at goals, we look at data analysis, we look at trends in their business, and we're basically coaching them on the financial end of their business. And strategic, exactly. And it's so fun because it's creative problem solving and having those like boardroom discussions with the whiteboard and all the stuff, like going, let's solve a problem that you have together. And that lights me up. So I realized that's what I want to do. And in order to do that, that's when I started going backwards and saying, I only want to serve, actually, this is a unique business model where I only want to serve 10 clients. I want to have that level service for 10 people. Why? Because I want a short list of people that I can look at every single day. I have 2 blocks on my calendar on Tuesday and Wednesday mornings that just say CFO. And I look at that list and I go, does anyone need anything from me today? What can I do to further the missions of these 10 people today? And that's what they're paying for. I go, you're paying to be on that Post-it note on my wall. It's like the Picasso thing. I go, you're paying to be on that list because most accountants are transactional. They like the transactional. They're doing volume. I go, no, I'm doing value. I'm not playing volume.
Quote machine.
I'm not playing volume. I'm playing value. I want to go deep, not wide. I want to be the relationship, not the one night stand. And every accountant is just an April 15th hookup. And I don't want to do that anymore. I just said, I feel mistreated. I literally felt like rejected, like a dating app. I was like, this is not fun. So that's actually what drove it. I actually wanted more of the relationship with the clients. I wanted to serve them on a higher level. And I said,
For me to do that, I need less clients and therefore I need a higher tier service. And then I said, how can I add compelling value that makes them go, not only are you worth it, Shan, but I can't imagine my business without you. That's my goal.
I was like, I found a soundboard. Let's see if this works.
Oh gosh. You want me to use one of mine?
Is it working? Is it working?
Yes.
Can you hear the cheering?
Yeah. Do I have one of those too? I have one of those too, but I don't have it labeled. So I'm probably going to.
Here's your joke one. What was that? Did you hear the
Yeah.
That was freaking awesome. Oh my God. There we go. Boom, baby. Oh, this is sensational. Oh my God. Like everything that you said, it's so cool because this is what we talk about all the time.
It's true.
All the time. And it's so cool to have somebody else just come in and be like, hey, that thing that Brian's talking about all the time, here's how I implemented it. Unbeknownst to him, this is every single thing that we talked about.
It works.
People that are listening right now, if you have especially a service-based business, here's an idea. You could simply double your price, fire half of your clients, and have the same top line revenue with better results, better experience, better work-life balance. You could do that today.
Deliver those results exceptionally well. And guess what? People will be lining up to work with you. And then you also have that same top line revenue. And then you're in the position I'm in where I'm now trying to hire another Shannon to replicate what I did for those. If you can do it for 5, 10 clients, you can create a scalable process, trainings, and know it so well that then you can replicate yourself and train that person on how to handle those 5 or give them 5 new ones. And when you're dealing with a smaller number, it's so much more manageable to then create a scalable model. And that's the thing. When you're juggling 100 different clients, and by the way, I fired 80 clients last year. That was hard.
I just fired some.
Yeah, I fired 80 clients over tax returns, and nobody was really upset because they understood why I was doing it. I did it gracefully, and I said, thank you so much for being part of my growth, but I've got to transition this business model. And it was great. And now I'm hiring more people to take on these clients. But what I did was I made it so that I figured out what my capacity was to serve at the level I wanted. And I said, I want to do 6 clients. Great. So if I want to have 18, I'm like, I need 2 more Shannons. So I got to put that into my plan. So eventually it just turns into a very measurable model that you can go, okay, if I do this times 2, I'll be okay. This is exactly what I wanted to do. This is what I meant to do and how I meant to serve them.
And isn't it funny the level of confidence that you're able to speak to your perfect customer now? Because we just fired about, and I say fired, it was pretty mutual. It was like, so here's another great fact for people that are starting their business. Make your refund policy like pretty gracious, pretty generous, because you don't like, there's no point, like people spend so much time focusing on the back end churn reduction. And they're like, how can I make it so difficult for people to leave my business? How can I make it so difficult for people to get a refund or to have a 30-day guarantee or a 60-day or results-based guarantee? I'm like, make it the opposite. Make it extraordinarily easy, especially in the beginning, because then the people that are not the right fit, then you can part ways. There are people, I think there's about probably 12 to 15 people that left Action Academy that it wasn't a fit for mutually. And they're probably still listening to this podcast right now. And I gave them all their money back because they were, and it was over and over again. It was the same person. It was, hey, I don't really have the money for this, but I'll give you my last $2,000-$3,000 because I really want to give it a shot. I haven't bought a rental property yet. I haven't bought an investment yet. And I want to buy my first property. I need help buying that first property. That's just not who we serve, because when we're doing our calls are, here's how you buy a mobile home park. Here's how I buy a self-storage facility. Here's step-by-step how I did a seller finance negotiation for buying an $8 million service-based business where I bought it 0% down, seller finance. Here's the tracker. Here's the entire deal spreadsheet. Like, let's role play together. They were like, what are you talking about? You're talking like Greek to me. And so they were like, I don't like, and they needed help to buy that first house hack or something. And I was like, I can't take your money because you can learn that in a book. So we parted ways. All those people are now giving their money back. They're out. And now everyone that's in the community is now like higher level. So now it's like, we're looking for that person that already has a couple of properties that they're already moving and shaking and ripping. And what I look for is gunpowder. Is what I like to call them. So
I like that.
If you identify as gunpowder, where it's like all you need is just like that one spark, which is that one call, that one idea, that one conversation, and then your life completely changes, and you can take action with that.
I love that term. I'm going to steal that.
Steal it, because we're the group for you. Because we got like this new member, Janet. Janet's freaking awesome. She's a commercial real estate property manager over in California, and she gets one idea, one connection, and she's off to the races. I just heard this guy talk about buying businesses. I want to go buy 30 businesses. Watch me do it. So
absolutely.
anyways,
and we're month to month as well, by the way. I'm month to month. And even if you pay in full for a year in advance, I will prorate back the unused portion, because I'm like, look, I want to earn your value every month. And if I'm not doing that, who am I to keep you in a straitjacket and stuck to me? Like, let's just call it what it is, and I'll get someone else who wants to be here. And that's no hard feelings, no judgment, nothing personal. But you mentioned too, Brian, you mentioned buying the properties. And I want to mention too that we bought the house in Costa Rica. It was a very good deal for, we're a few blocks from the beach and we could buy it outright. But how we actually funded it was we took advantage of the CARES Act, where you could pull out the money tax-free from your retirement fund, tax-free and penalty-free. So we pulled out of our Roth because we said, hey, retirement's not guaranteed. Like, this is our retirement, or this is what we're going to turn into it. And we basically borrowed from our future selves that way. We also basically took a lot of our savings. I was putting money away from payroll, like every paycheck. We took money out of our high yield savings, and we pulled money out of the stock market. And all in all, we ended up with enough money to cover the payment for the home. But we also recently invested in more land down there. We're going to be building a house down there. We're going to be flipping a house down there. And then we've gotten so into earning money and having fun doing it down in Costa Rica through real estate. And it's been so fun. So we're actually moving from the business income over into the just investing. And we actually invested in a spec home down there, which is a hidden strategy, but you don't have to do anything but put money in. If you know the property is going to sell for more than it costs, then you can put money in and become an investor and then get money back based on the return on the property. So it's like, you can be as passive as you want it to be. And it's been super fun getting to know that strategy down there.
Real estate. I still love real estate. I'm still going to do real estate. I'm still in my single family homes right now. I'll have a little over 200,000 in cash and then be able to do something bigger. Right now, it's just in the season that I'm in right now. I just am building the business income to where I can funnel that after the fact. The business income will yield more real estate, but bigger deals.
Yeah. But we're not sticking to one flavor. We're not sticking to one flavor. We're doing everything.
We're buying the ice cream shop building, triple net lease, still in finance. All right. Yeah. And when it comes to pricing models, that's a whole other can of worms. That's a whole separate podcast to where we can go into building a continuity, taking away negating your CAC, which is your customer acquisition cost. This is all super fun. But in closing, how are you marketing for these new customers? Or do you even have to really market just word of mouth or?
Okay, so how am I marketing? It's so funny because I tell people who I coach that are other accountants trying to do this that you never have to sell if you market well enough. And for me, marketing is showing up, speaking, having a personal brand, teaching, having my podcast, showing up as an authority and a thought leader in my space, and word of mouth referrals, obviously. But just, I feel like I create this presence of sharing my knowledge openly, expecting nothing in return.
For free.
I have so much stuff for free. Yeah, I give away everything for free. I give away all my best stuff for free. I subscribe to that model that Hormozi talks about, which is give it all for free, because people will pay for the implementation with you because they trust you, because you gave them all the information and they used it and it worked.
That's why I talk about the literal business that people are paying me to be in.
Exactly.
Which is counterintuitive. There's supposed to be some secret. There's supposed to be some secret. I'm like, hey, I just changed my pricing model. Here's how I changed it and why it rocks.
Yeah. Why do you think nutritionists and personal trainers still have businesses? Y'all know you're supposed to eat broccoli and do burpees, but you don't.
Yeah.
And you need people to tell you to go do it. This is no different. So I will stand here and tell you how to maximize your cash flow, how to fix these things that are going on in your business. And I'm going to hold you accountable because I'm going to see you next week and I'm going to ask you how it went. And that alone is motivation enough for people to be like, shit, I got to go do that.
Yeah, you should be giving away so much stuff for free in your business that it makes you uncomfortable.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm almost thinking about how do I package my entire 52-hour course that's included in Action Academy. I'm like, how do I package all of that and just give it away for free? So that's what I'm working on.
Your
right
podcast.
Now.
Your podcast probably encompasses a lot of it.
Yeah. And last I checked, this is 300-400 hours now of free content. And
wow.
It's super fun because what it allows for is Hormozy's got another cool quote where if anybody's like talking crap to you and it triggers you and it makes you angry, it means there's a semblance of truth to it. And so it's like the main reason I didn't want to start a course or a mastermind is you have these like comments that are like, oh, great, another course guy, another mastermind guy. You're a freaking con artist. You're scamming people. And it's just, I'm like, no. I'm like, you know why, man? Do you have 400 hours of free content teaching people how to do this? And It's just like readily available out there for everyone. And when I do intro calls for Action Academy, I'm just like, dude, I've got nothing to sell you. Like, I really don't. Like, you can go listen to the podcast 100% for free and it will give you everything that you need. Same. It's just, if you want to go fast, like, I'm the guy that buys your time back. That's it. So if you want to do it in 6 to 12 months instead of 6 to 12 years, like, that's where you pay money. Let's rock. Like, I will literally call you and say, why aren't you doing what you said you were supposed to do last week? You're not calling your brokers. You're not analyzing your businesses. You're not submitting your offers, yet you want cash flow. Yeah. So you can't read a book your way. You can't read your way to cash flow. You can't podcast your way to cash flow. Are you submitting the offers? Are you doing the deals? So speaking of cash flow, Shannon, where can people find you and what do you help people do? Podcast host, bam.
Podcast host. I know. I host the podcast Keep What You Earn, and that's exactly what I help you do. My mission is to have more knowledgeable and savvy business owners out there that are confident in what they're doing, not just in their pricing, not just in their offer, but like their identity as a business owner, owning that identity. So that's what I'm really on a mission to do. And then as far as a one-on-one thing goes, I am a fractional CFO to a handful of clients, and I am open for more clients right now. And I love to help them build cash flow, sustainability, longevity in their businesses as they grow. I'm really looking for growth-minded people who are gunpowder, as you said.
Yeah. Boom. Sweet. If somebody is looking to book a call with you or something like that, where do they go?
You can head over to fitnancialsolutions.com, FITNANCIAL solutions.com. And I would love to chat with you. I love meeting entrepreneurs and I love learning more about your businesses.
Rock and roll. Sweet, guys. You will have both links to both the podcast and to Fitnancial in the show description. Shan, thank you for coming on. Thank you for becoming the homie. Let me get booed up real quick, and then I'll fly out down to Costa Rica and come have a double date with you and the husband down there.
Absolutely. Exactly. And then deduct it for your taxes. Call it a business trip.
Hot damn. That has been Shannon and Brian with the Action Academy podcast, signing off.
Okay, real talk. Our business can really mess with our emotions and our mindset. Am I right? One day we feel like we're unstoppable, like we could run through a wall, and then the next we want to burn it all down and start from scratch. Hey, I'm with you. A lot of this has to do with how we approach our money. And if you need a quick jolt of mindset habits for the next 5 days to help you reboot and recalibrate, check out my 5-day financial mindset refresh delivered straight to your email. Click the link in the show notes to sign up right now. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me. We'll see you on the next episode.